now senior Republicans, have hit out against him. Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey and Trump ally, accused the president of inflaming without informing, urging him to show us the evidence. And in the last few minutes, we're now hearing Joe Biden has edged ahead, Pennsylvania leading. It's incredible. It's 49.4 to 49.3. The state's got 20 electoral college votes, of course, which could nudge it for Biden. Let's speak to Kevin Chavous, of course, Democratic strategist based in Washington. Tony Shaffer sits on the Trump 2020 board, also based in Washington. Guys, afternoon to you. Kevin, I mean, I don't know why the Democrats are bothering, really, because the election is done and dusted. Mr. Trump won it. He told us so.
Right. Yeah, no matter what the result is, it could be the biggest landslide ever if he won.
Yeah.
But look, this race is over. We knew the writing was on the wall. It remains to be seen if he will eventually concede. He says he won't, as recently as this morning, or at least sources say that he has no plans to concede. But I like the quote from an insider in the White House who said, for him to lose like this with this crush of mail-in ballots is really just galactic level karma. Because he talked down the importance of mail-in or discouraged his supporters from mailing in votes. Maybe he would have won if he wasn't so reliant on, maximizing election day turnout specifically. So
that's a very good point.
I'm very happy. Look, I'm glad that the trends held up from what we saw last night, and I think Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States.
But he's not going to be a president with a landslide, Kevin, is he? I mean, this was all part and parcel of the Biden magic. Was meant to be that this guy wasn't just going to win, he was going to win big.
Yeah, well, it won't be a landslide, especially, because we didn't win the Senate seats we were hoping to win. But, he's up by over, I guess now, 4 million votes. It looks like it could be an electoral landslide. One thing is for sure, it'll be very tough for the Trump campaign to craft an argument that, in 4 or 5 different states, there was such widespread fraud that led to vote margins of hundreds of thousands or, close to hundreds of thousands. I mean, I just think that at some point, they're just going to have to move on.
Yeah.
I mean, we're used to it.
Tony, your man, Mr. Trump, you sit on the Trump 2020 board. He can't really believe this, can he, Tony?
There's nothing to not believe. Kevin is just wrong. I'm sorry. When Florida and Texas can both be counted in one night with all the same challenges, all these other states can't, and they're all blue, it's called a pattern. And simply because the president hasn't announced all the evidence, you don't generally give up evidence as an ongoing criminal investigation is going. Just saying. I think people are being way premature here. And I'm just, based on what I was briefed on yesterday, I do look at this stuff very carefully. The stats don't add up. When you have a gain in Congress, a holding of the Senate, all these other things in blue states, I might add, you all can do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. But I think it's important for people to recognize that the moment the Democrats try to prevent people from observing the process, I'm an intelligence officer, it's called an indicator. The moment you have to simply fight to get people in to legally observe, there's something wrong there.
But as I understand it, Tony, they are observing, but the Republicans want more observers.
No. They wanted people who were qualified to observe the process as part of the legal, the local laws. Remember, the suits are based on local election law. Each state has their own process. And once you get to the tabulation process, you have a certain right, if you're representing the candidate, to have certain oversight. That's all people are going for here. And the fact that there's such a fight to prevent that indicates everything I need to know about what the Democrats are doing.
I mean, Kevin, it's a fair point there, isn't it? I know that each state, there's no federal system here, so state systems differ widely across the country. But yeah, Florida and Texas counted in about 3.5 minutes, and the rest can't get done in 3.5 days. What's going on?
Well, some states just aren't prepared for vote by mail. Pennsylvania doesn't have a culture of people vote by mail, so they clearly weren't ready. Plus, they had the law that
Texas and Florida were ready. Oh my God!
Republican state legislature put in place that said you can't start counting till election day. That was Republicans. probably another form of voter suppression.
Tony, can you just reply to that, Tony? Can you respond to that
Yeah,
point?
look, each state has the ability to vote before the election day starts for early arriving ballots. That's complete hooey. Again, Florida was not prepared for mail-in ballots, but they had a ton because they have senior citizens and other folks who wanted to stay home. They handled that the evening of. Texas, the same thing. Something happened between midnight and 4 a.m., the night of the election, where all of a sudden voting stopped in certain states. Why would you stop counting the vote? And all of a sudden numbers jumped up. So again, you all can believe whatever you want. I'm going to wait for an investigation and for the rest of the story to be told. Remember, the complete media, to include people like Kevin, were all over, oh, President Trump wasn't wiretapped. Nothing happened like that. The media jumped on. Turned out he was. So again, it just seems to me there's a pattern here where people will say something in the media, project something, and then it turns out.
Tony, I get that, and I understand that there's been mischief played across all facets and elements of this story from parts of the media. But when a sitting president stands in the White House 2:30 in the morning and says we have won, when demonstrably he hadn't, regardless of what we think of fraud, I mean that there's something wrong here, right?
I don't know. Look, if you take what he said at face value, if you count the properly accounted for, properly sealed, properly franked ballots that were counted on the night of the election like they were supposed to be, he's won. It's done. It's over. What we're seeing here is, and this is what the plan is, you guys can go back and check this. Joe Biden even said on video that this is going to be the largest election fraud ever perpetrated. He actually says it on a video, that their intention was to drag this out using this very method, this vote by mail method, where you can insert ballots in. And I think there's going to be more about how they did it coming out very soon.
Okay,
I'm just saying, you all need to wait and hear what happens after the fact.
So, Kevin, you've got to wait for that evidence. So don't be thinking your man's got the big gig just yet.
Well, I would say, it's easier. In 2000, the GOP decided to focus on Florida. There were other states where there were potential things they could have looked into, but it was close enough where they could focus on Florida. Here, okay, Georgia, you're losing Georgia, Republican governor, Republican administration from the top down. I mean, are they cheating too? Is Brian Kemp cheating? I mean, he's losing by such a margin that you got to attack so many different states that it just makes it hard from an election law perspective to really effectively win by filing lawsuits. I mean, a couple of the lawsuits he filed 2 days ago were thrown out immediately. And it was, a Bush appointee. I mean, wasn't an Obama judge or anything like that. Yeah. It's tough if it's not one state. If it's 3 or 4 states with Republican leadership, I just don't see the path to victory using that strategy. I mean, it could happen. Obviously President Trump has a very loyal following, but
I mean, on that point, Tony, I mean, what is being alleged here, Tony? I said it at the beginning. This is what Mr. Trump is alleging, and yourself too, is a fraud that would rival something you'd see Robert Mugabe do back in the day. I mean, this is right up there.
No doubt. No, I work election security. I actually visited Georgia. I talked about the tapestry of their own problems regarding systems. And yes, what we're talking about here is massive after-the-fact ballot box stuffing. Again, I cite for you the states who were able to do this rapidly and be done with it. I'm sorry, Georgia has 2 counties, blue control counties, which keep showing up with additional votes. It's called a clue. So, I don't, you all can, again, believe whatever you want regarding the outcome. But if you look at the stats, you look at the process, and you try to figure out what actually happened here, and that's what we're focused on now, what happened after the polls closed on the 3rd of November. And again, that's the focus, is if the ballots came in after that and they weren't properly marked as being cast before the 3rd, they can't be counted. And that's why this is probably going to end up in front of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's going to rule based on the Constitution. That's all. That's it.
That's all it can do, of course. As we sit here now, of course, Biden takes the lead in Pennsylvania, 5,587 votes. A word from you both on this. Tony Shaffer, I mean, this, of course, if Biden takes Pennsylvania, he takes the White House.
Again, I would wait to see what the results are by the fact that big parts of the state went very big for President Trump. And yet, again, Texas got it done, Florida got it done, and Pennsylvania has not yet. Now, I've testified in front of the Pennsylvania legislature, both houses, on election security. They've had challenges from day one. So what I've seen here, because there has been denial of even cases where the Trump campaign won the case to be in the room, was denied. Again, the idea should be here maximum transparency. If Biden wants to send someone into, people were saying send someone into so you can observe the observer. We don't care. But the issue is observing the tabulation for purposes of ensuring that all votes that are being counted were cast prior to the 3rd and received at some point within the margin of what the Supreme Court said they could have. That's it. Again, this is all going to be coming down to legal battles based on what the law and Constitution is.
And Kevin, this will be bittersweet, won't it? Because there'll be Democratic celebration if Pennsylvania goes the way of your man, Mr. Biden. But this could be, months before based on everything that Tony is saying. I mean, we could be back to 1876 here.
Yeah, unfortunately. And we knew that this was a possibility because they projected, obviously, the Democrats would vote by mail in a lot of the states. They would do those last. And we were worried that would give President Trump an opportunity to go out there like he did early Wednesday morning and say, I've won. Or he didn't say he won, but he said, we look good. I mean, he essentially gave a speech that indicated that he thought he would win or was in a good position. And he was. But we knew that there were a lot of ballots left to be counted. So we'll see. But again, with this type of margin, I'm confident that eventually it will work out in the Democrats' favor.
All right.
But the damage will be lasting. We have to work together once we get past this, and there will be some damage control to do. There's no doubt about that.